This is from Mr. Dwayne Wiley, who's a Port Chicago resident between 1935 and 1957. I was born in Texas, and we came to Port Chicago about 1934-35. In 1944, I was 12 years old. My father worked at the Port Chicago base as a blocker and bracer. He worked with the wood bracing that was put around the ammunition boxcars so it doesn't move around. My dad, on the night of the explosion, was working in the shop. They didn't find him for a day and a half. When they found him, he was injured very badly. When the explosion blew, it blew out all the windows and the glass. He was standing and running a bandsaw with a big, long blade. The explosion blew the building down and blew the saw on top of him, cut him up pretty severe, and the glass was all over his body. A funny thing about glass, if you get a piece of glass in your body, over the years it will eventually work itself off and want to come out. 25 years, 30 years after the explosion, we could still take glass out of my dad's back. He stayed in the hospital for over 3 months the first time. He returned to the hospital 2 separate times to be repaired. Eventually, he overcame the injuries that he got during the explosion, and he lived until he was 84 years old.
All right. I just want to tell you a little bit about the Friends. We've been working collaboratively with the National Park Service and the East Bay Regional Park District to expand the recognition of the memorial here. And it was converted from an affiliated unit of the National Park Service to a full unit of the National Park Service, and we're glad that's happened. And this land reuse project that's been happening, and we're looking forward to having a world-class visitor and interpreter center here, but we need support. So we're inviting all the help we can get. We want to have exhibit of maps and original artifacts and photographs and a space for audio-visual presentation. We want to have classrooms for presentation, a small space for quiet remembrance, maybe a chapel. There's a beautiful stained glass window that was here at the Port Chicago Chapel that we would like to have, which is being saved, and we will use that at some point. So we have had a collaborative effort. And then the only other thing, Tom, was I was thinking maybe if anybody had any questions, they could ask Robert. It might be a question and answer type thing. Otherwise, thank you for being here.
Thank you. Thanks, you, Diana. Well, does anyone else want to share a story? Okay, well, the windows that Reverend Diana mentioned, we actually have 2 of them on exhibit at the Rosie the Riveter Visitor Center in Richmond right now. So if you want to go see 2 of the, I think actually there are a total of 5 windows. We have the other windows in storage, but 2 of them are on display at the Visitor Center, and there's actually a little information about Port Chicago at the Rosie the Riveter Visitor Center as well. So you can visit there. We're open 7 days a week from 10 to 5, and you can see those windows. We also show this film. If you ask at the front desk of the Visitor Center, they'll show you this Port Chicago film at the Rosie Visitor Center as well. So you can see the film there if you want to bring friends and family there to see it. And I think asking, if people have questions, I certainly can answer questions about what we're doing in the National Park Service, but if you have questions about the history, there are people that know a lot more than I do, and Dr. Allen or one of our park rangers could also ask questions, answer questions as well.
The plaque out there said 44 started. It sounded like the first ship were loaded in 44, and then a couple months later, it was loaded.
Yeah, no, they had actually been loading out there for a couple of years by that time, by 1944. I think they had started the work in 41, something like that. There'd always been something out there for a long time. And then they decided to refurbish it and update it and make it war ready for the new situation. I think that started in about 1941, 42. And then the work started also, and by 1944, they had been working out there for a couple of years. Any other questions, comments?
If there aren't other questions, I was actually, how many people didn't get a chance to see the whole film? I was going to show the film one more time, so there are a few folks here. So if there aren't more questions, I'll go ahead and start the film. We'll see it one more time.
I don't see well looking towards the sun, towards the light. Could I turn my chair around?
How would you like to be?
This one down. Put that right there. Put that right down. Yeah, thanks. Okay. Great.
Yeah, now I can see.
Great, and then you were saying that you were living in Port Chicago at the
No,
time?
I lived in Clyde.
Oh,
Yeah.
great. I think maybe we should just go ahead and roll. And so, yeah, just go ahead. And Denise, why don't you ask her or talk, get her started, and I'll just relax here.
Okay, go ahead and tell us your story in your own words.
One word. Hi.
Okay, so you're living in Clyde.
Yeah, I was living in Clyde and just married. Well, I've been married about 4 years. I was 24 years old. And my husband had been inducted into the Navy in May. And he was home before he shipped out that night of an explosion. Or he came home the night before and said that was his last night home. But then next night he came home again and surprised me. So we went to the theater in Martinez, to the State Theater, and we were watching Jimmy Cagney movie. And his airplane got hit, and he's circling down, 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 down. And as he never hit because the explosion happened at the same time. I never saw him hit. Never knew what happened to him. And so we went out, everybody went outside the theater, we thought it was an earthquake. And then they said, oh no, it's Benicia blew up in Vallejo. Nobody's mentioned Port Chicago. So we went back in and watched the rest of the movie. And as we drove over the hill there on Highway 4 and looked over to Clyde, it was black. There wasn't one light. So we just drove like crazy. And when we got home on the 250 Wellington on 2nd Street, and all the neighbors were out because they knew I was alone and they were worried about me. And of course we leave it. We saw Frank was home. But the next day, 2 men came to see if I was all right, friends, you know. And people were just
with the Park
wonderful.
Service, the Eugene O'Neill show.
That was my experience that night. The next day, next to me was a house with a mother and four little children. And she worked in the shipyard, Smitty did. And her daughter, Jeannie, was supposed to be taking care of the little kids, which were 2 and 4 years old. Instead, she went to Port Chicago to the fair. And we had another neighbor on the other side, Tony, who was an electrician and worked for Van Winkle and everything. And he was worried about the children, so he went over to their house and checked on those little ones. And their bed was littered with glass. And not one child woke up or was hurt. And those are the kind of things that happened. There were just real miracles that happened. Yeah, it was great.
So, could you say your husband's name and his rank or job?
He was a sailor in the U.S. Navy, seaman first class, and he was shipped out that day, went to Hawaii, and then they put him on a ship called Mississinawa. And yeah.
And what was his name?
It's a tanker. His name was Frank Goncalves. No, the ship was Mississinawa.
Okay.
And he was out in the seas out there, you know. And when the village where they were was Inuit Village, and all the ships, big ships and everything, had all gone into this little harbor, and they dropped down the chains so nobody could get in. And their tankers, of course, they left at the outside. Well, here come one of these little
They're trying to make sure everyone gets off the base at the end.
submarines, the the suicide subs.
But if we have a lift.
And I guess they had 5, but 4 of them went through and didn't get anything. The 5th one hit his ship midship. And he was up, it was at 5:30 in the morning, and he was up on the top deck sweeping. And he said he jumped down to the lower level, and he said when he got down there, there were all these kids and sailors were there, and he yelled at them to jump, jump. And he said they just stood there. They didn't move. They were so traumatized, I guess. And so they had life rafts, rubber rafts going by, and he saw one and he wanted to get on, and the fellow said, "No, we're full." And he said he went over to that thing and pushed the guy out of the way and jumped aboard. But they lost 20% of their crew. And Channel 2 had a big, the reason I know all this, I have 2 videos of that ship blowing up. Another ship took videos, pictures of it, and Channel 2 there was 3 men from Oakland that went out to find it, and they found it. And down there, after all these years, they found the ship, but they left it there because there were so many there. So it's a memorial out in the Inuit, yeah. But he survived.
He's a tough guy.
Well, we need to jump back on the bus, but I'd like to ask, just tell me how you feel about today. We're remembering all the lost people at Port Chicago, but what a wonderful day. Just any thoughts on today?
Today, oh, yes. It brought him back to me, my husband back to me, because he had worked here before he went in the Navy, and I had a son that worked here. So it's a very special place for me. Clyde is a special place. I love living there. I live in Concord now, but I love living in Clyde, and the people here are great. And today touches my heart.
Thank you so much for talking to us.
You know, you go through all kinds of memories and emotions, you know. But you know, during the war, everybody took care of themselves, took care of each other. Everybody took care of each other. They didn't worry. Ready to go? Get me out of here. Quit my
I just thought we'd
talking.
give you a hug and just show a little love. And you kind of made this day special here, having you talk, speaking up there. So thank you for doing that.
Really?
What a bunch of great memories. And, you know, a little sadness, but so much happiness for the wonderful life we have made after that.
Absolutely. And my oldest son was born right after that, 46. And he's coming next year, he said.
Hopefully it's 7-0, huh?
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.